So you know I don't endorse any kind of supplements or detoxes or pills or powders or diets or natural remedies or essential oils or cannabis or concoctions to take away pain and suffering and or sell a potential detox. I don't endorse any products like that. And I know people think that because I understood what parasites were, that potentially I would be endorsing what they were promoting, but that is not necessarily the case. Okay? And so I want you to understand my perspective around parasites is they are unavoidable. They are unavoidable. And so that's why you have to have a strong immune system and a strong body to be able to release anything that doesn't belong and then also rebuild the body. Okay? There is no way to 1000% be in avoidance of any kind of bacteria, any kind of parasites. I mean, just in this environment alone, with how aggressive the heat is, the bacteria and the parasites are going to proliferate even more aggressively because of the heat and the acceleration of the environment. And so then you have to almost be one step ahead of the situation. And when you start feeling symptoms, you cough, sneeze, and blow your nose. That's what I've been trying to say the last few years. Now, obviously, I'm not giving you any medical advice, but that's the perspective I'm coming from, is the fact that we have a mechanism called coughing. You cough out stuff. You cough out pathogens. You cough out parasites. You sneeze. When the body has to release something aggressively, like little tiny hydrogen bombs, you sneeze. And that develops an energy force that pushes things out of the cells, out of the areas, and into the bloodstream to where it can be parsed out and then get out of the different orifices. Okay? So see, then blowing your nose. You're blowing out parasites, and they could be minuscule. They could have been already broken down by the antibodies. So it'd be easier for dispersal. So, yeah, I don't do the detoxes, because what is detoxing? What does that even mean? I detox every morning when I go to the restroom. When I sweat, that's like a detox. Sweating detoxifies you. Too much sweating, you melt your insides, because then you're going to burn all the calories in your body and you won't have an immune system. And so the last 5 years, as this environment changed so aggressively, I was detoxing out everything, and it wasn't through the jelly juice, because I already did that. I wasn't on the jelly juice. I was actually eating everything, giving my immune system and my body the strength to build up my own organic detoxing mechanism called symptoms. Symptoms are nature's organic detoxing. But what people do when they get symptoms? They're taking remedies to stop them. They're getting surgeries. They're taking essential oils. They're doing the supplements, the pills, the powders, all the different things that you are seeing all over the health and wellness community, causing a compounding everything. Okay? Anytime you bring in an antigen, whether it's a therapy like a public health therapy or a detox or a pill, a powder, supplement, all that stuff, you develop an offspring. You're making the parasites inside your body stronger whenever you actually intend to detoxify using the remedy system. You're turning them into anacondas. And then people are like, well, I don't want to feed them, so they stop eating food. That was the depopulation agenda. Was they got to the girls, wanted them to be all skinny and cute and whatever, so they demonized the symptoms. They said food was poison, it's full of parasites, and they scared people away from actually changing, so they stayed cured. But, when you stay cured in a dynamic environment, it's called aggressive entropy, because you're resisting the changes. And so then people are trapping what they could have released through the poop, pee, sweat, and symptoms and mucus. They turned them into these colonies of crazy-ass disease called cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders. But no, I have never, ever endorsed any detoxing method. Aside from coughing, sneezing, blowing your nose, eating all food in the food supply. But again, people have food allergies, so you're going to have to play that one very carefully if you have milk allergies and peanut allergies and all these things. But never, ever would I ever condone or endorse any MLM or any kind of aggressive diet so I can combat parasites. You have an immune system and you have the food supply that is FDA approved for its intention to strengthen your ability to release. And yeah, it can be painful. So obviously I can't be the one to say, well, you could do it. But that is theoretically what you're supposed to understand, and whether or not you can actually practice organic detoxification through symptoms will be up to you, your parents, your doctor, your friends, and your family, because they're all going to be watching you do this, and they're going to be like having their 2 cents in the peanut gallery, and that's hard to resist. So I just say it from this perspective. Okay? I say it from this perspective. You cannot escape parasites. You cannot escape bacteria. You can't escape bugs. I was outside yesterday around different people, and I was hanging out with my husband, and I was jogging around my yard and all that stuff, and there's a billion bugs out there. But am I afraid of getting, exposed to parasites? No, because I have an immune system. And so when I was exposed to all the energy and the heat, because it was so hot outside, then I was hungry. What did I do? I ate a hamburger. I made spaghetti or something. I don't know what I made last night. Oh yeah, I made pork chops last night. I believe. Yeah, I made pork chops last night. People are like, oh, pork chops and pig, they have parasites. Okay. They also have nutrients. And guess what? A working immune system that wants to work organically will release the demons. But see, that was back in 2016 when we took on the salt, which activated people's immune system. You saw so many waterfalls. And you saw people picking through their waste material, looking and identifying all the things that were stuck in their immune system. Yeah, they might have seen ropeworms. They might have seen liver flukes. They might have seen tapeworm. They might have seen so many things. And the people are all freaked out because they're like, oh God, it's in the air, food, and water. Well, yeah, of course it is. It's called life. You are like, what is it? I forget how many trillions of colony-forming units of bacteria that make up your 11 different systems. And they all just be intelligent and working with each other. They're supposed to be connected. You're supposed to, when you cough, you're supposed to kind of like when you see a dog, when they bark, their anus opens up on the back end. Watch a dog. Because everything is connected from the mouth to the anus. But with humans, they have disconnected areas. They have redirected areas. So not everything is connected. Maybe they're shut off stuff or redirected stuff or blocked stuff because people couldn't handle the symptoms, or they couldn't handle the pressure, the pain, and the suffering. And I understand, I get it. But when you start shutting down aspects of your immune system progressively, that's when people start dying off systematically, because they're shutting down the life and the voice of their body, mind, and spirit. And so, yeah. I just want you to understand that parasites are not something to be so afraid of. When they become obviously too numerous and they end up taking over a system, well, the reason why these parasites get so numerous, where they turn into cancer, disease, and chronic illness, is because persons practices in the remedies world, trapping them inside. Sorry, my hair is like, whoo-hoo. Okay? You don't want to trap any kind of pathogens in the body. That's why the remedy system has done such a number on the population, because what they serve to do is vasoconstrict your ability to release, and also vasodilate when the person wants the intention to release something. But what you're doing is you are forcing the body to do something against its will, And when you force anything to do something against its will, it's going to revolt against you and come back harder against you, trying to protect itself. And so the conditioning process is understand intellectually what you're supposed to do as far as coughing, sneezing, blowing your nose, and pooping and peeing and all that. But then eventually it is a conditioning process to understand the mechanism. So when you do experience weird shit, which you're gonna, I mean, people have told me what they've experienced out there, like the drop in sugar, the increase in hunger. And I remember being so hungry because when the immunity breaks down and the pods open up and break up, you have all these little children, when you think about it, running around your body. They're so hungry and you have to feed them, but you also have to be able to release them too. And those are two things that happen simultaneously. And that's where you get the explosive diarrhea if you hadn't done anything except just walked somewhere. Because the body not only does it open up stuff, but it also tries to release. Okay? So it is a conditioning process to understand organically how you're supposed to deal with any kind of excessive entity that also translate into the paranormal world. Because you have demons inside, and then there are spirits roaming around like the Walking Dead, but they're not like your friends. I mean, they could be like your friends and family, but I don't want to, characterize your friends and family as The Walking Dead. But there are spirits on the other side that do connect with whatever it is you hold inside, which is why you get all the different hauntings and stuff, okay? So, yeah, parasitic entities could be little creatures inside that are summoning the other side, little, microscopic entities that are floating around in your universe. And you're supposed to be able to develop enough energy to release them. You're supposed to develop enough energy to take on the substance and convert the pork and the meat and the milk, the cheese and the eggs and all of that into vital organs, into blood vessels, into plasma, into ligaments and tendons and bone matrix. You're supposed to convert all the food supply into your stomach lining. And so we have progressively been taking food away from people. So the cause of death to every person, I don't care what it is, the reason why people die is because they're in starvation. Starvation is the number one reason why everyone dies. How it comes out, it could be heart attack, stroke, aneurysm, choking on your own mucus, drowning in your own mucus, making bad choices and or playing with the dead, and it's causing a possession, and then people make bad choices and all that stuff. And so, that's the number one reason why people die is starvation. Because they're not eating enough, they're not releasing enough, they're not resting enough, they're trying to keep up with people they shouldn't be trying to keep it up with because you don't have the substance. But again, the drug industry has made people think that they were superhuman, so they didn't feel anything, so then they work beyond their capacity, and then one day they drop over dead. That's why I think it's so important to feel, so when you're going too far, when you're overextending yourself. But again, the drug industry had made it such where people thought they could do everything, and no, you only have a specific capacity, and then you got to recoup resources. Okay? So that's my little spew or my hue and cry, my spiel about parasites. They're not something to be afraid of. It's when they become so numerous where they end up being shadows on the CT scans and all the, the x-rays, and when you have shadows in your body because of x-rays, it's because you're holding on to entities that you should be releasing. But again, it is painful and you can't force anyone to release demons or face your demons. So you just have to play it carefully. And I say things out of more of informational than trying to direct anyone. So anyways, that's it. All right. Bye.